In a town in northern Mozambique, armed men issue a chilling warning.
Mwangupatikana katika harakati zao, mwankuwasaidia fikra, vesha ya tatu ati masa toto yati masa chilunguza kidudu pia.
This is no empty threat.
Ukisikila Allah akibaru tu, ukimila ukiwa nemba wa kusinja.
Since 2017, insurgents have been terrorizing this region. Mozambican authorities have claimed they don't know who the insurgents are.
We don't know the reason why they're fighting or who the enemy is.
But many people living here do. Africa Eye has been tracking these insurgents, trying to answer two key questions. Who are they, and what do they want? For the past 4 years, unpredictable and violent raids have ravaged the region of Cabo Delgado in northern Mozambique.
Essa é a situação da nossa aldeia Migueleu. A partir dessa estrada até mais ou menos 5 quilômetros, está tudo destruído.
Sim, a gente quando vieram mesmo numa lista das terreiros, uma das pessoas que ele pretendia.
We geolocated video evidence of bodies said to have been mutilated by militants. Hundreds of raids have ravaged the region for years. Many more might have gone unreported. But one attack above all brought this war onto the global stage.
Dozens of people have been killed in an attack in northern Mozambique. The town of Palma, which is at the center of Mozambique's offshore natural gas industry, has been under a coordinated attack.
The attack prompted French energy giant Total to suspend its multi-billion-dollar gas project in the area and triggered military intervention by troops of other African nations. Just after the insurgents' assault, the Mozambican army told international press they didn't know who the attackers were.
We don't know the reason why they're fighting or who the enemy is.
But was that true? Authorities had known about a growing insurgency for years. Unlike other terror groups, the insurgents have largely avoided contact with the press. Africa Eye has been tracking their movements on the ground and digitally. Our investigation led us to the port town of Mocímboa da Praia. It is here that the war officially started on October 5, 2017. This is a glimpse of the insurgents filmed on that day. Locals call them by the Arabic name for youth. Attacks on 3 police stations failed. After the authorities brought the situation under control, life carried on as normal. But in 2020, the insurgents returned. This time, they came with a message.
Mwangupatikana katika harakati zao, mwankuwasaidia fikra, vesha ya tatu ati masa toto yati masa chilunguza kidudu pia.
Just 3 months later, they delivered on that promise.
Itingira sambe chopo kufyaira kimbele.
Aí entrar nas nossas casas, cada o que ele tem de importante retirar. Até às 12 horas queremos queimar toda essa vila.
Ikiwa pale mwana ile wana pia wawili wale wakitwaliwa
Apano wile tena musimba ya wenye kuikala muno ekale tena iwa kinu chakuwa.
For a year, many who fled believed their former home had become a ghost town. But this was far from the truth. When Rwandan and Mozambican troops entered Mocímboa after little resistance 2 months ago, they found evidence people had recently been living there. We have discovered the insurgents had held hostages in the area. We tracked down these people, whose identity we are protecting, who said they managed to escape captivity.
We got to a warehouse there in Musimbwa. They opened the door and I got dizzy. There were about 2,000 people there.
When women are taken to Musimbwa, first they are treated like slaves. They cook, fetch water, are taken for military training. Then they marry the Al-Shabaabs. When they come back from training, they can no longer dress like us. They have to wear the burqa, black clothes, socks, gloves on their hands. Only the eyes are left visible.
Remember this video? The one where the insurgents are threatening the crowd in Musimbwa? When we showed it to these former hostages, they recognized the speaker as one of their captors. They called him Abu Suraka.
He kills. He has no mercy.
He is the real cutthroat.
These women were not the only ones to recognize him.
What name was this man known by?
Just Nuru.
Nuro, they said, had been a neighbor to some, a friend to others. Someone most people in Musimbwa knew.
Nuro's mother is from Olumbe, and Nuro's father is from Maumize. He came to Musimbwa when he was a small child.
Before he was a good guy, he sold fish. He used to buy and sell fish.
We used to go there to buy many things, like onions and many other things.
He started to become another person, aggressive. And people asked him why. We don't understand you. And then he replied he was doing jihad.
They started going into the bush. When they came back, that's when I saw him with guns.
When the war started, Milamba caught fire and our houses burned. From then, we realized that Nuro is the one who is burning our houses. The same Nuro that we used to know.
Nuro is not the only fighter that our sources in Cabo Delgado identified. This man said he was kidnapped by a group of insurgents. Their commander introduced himself.
He told me himself. My name is Abu Dardai Jongo.
The name Dardai Jongo first surfaced online in 2020 when he posted jihadist content on his Facebook account. He was quickly outed by local media. Well before the Facebook post, this source had noticed that Dardai was becoming increasingly vocal about radical Islam.
He started saying, "This is the best religion for you." He knew what he was doing.
Our sources have identified Nuro and Dardai as members of the insurgency. But much remains unknown about its leadership structure.
What we have actually is a kind of collective leadership with Mozambicans, but also foreign combatants inside the group.
Just how many insurgents are there?
We don't have a clear answer on that. People talk about probably 3,000.
What are they fighting for? Some suggest the insurgents are angered by not sharing in the spoils of the growing oil and gas industry in Cabo Delgado.
It's almost uncanny, the timing of it. That here we have one of the biggest natural gas finds, and then you suddenly have an insurgency, and it's very difficult not to see a link there.
But that's not what the insurgents are saying in videos which have emerged online.
Meus irmãos, não posso ficar enganado. Nós não estamos a lutar sobre parece riqueza do mundo.
Esse é o gaji. Ofuatili kupokea kwa kanyusi wala kakibusi. Ofata kupokea kwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
One thing is clear. The insurgents have rallied around a radical Islamist cause. But the strength of the Mozambican connection with the Islamic State group and other international terror groups is unclear.
It's important to acknowledge that we have foreign component linked to ISIS, but the phenomenon cannot be reduced to ISIS only. There is something which is very local, which is very internal, that need to be taken into account.
We heard they reserve particular hatred for Mozambican President Felipe Nyusi.
They say we want Nyusi's head shattered for us to skewer, and we will eat it. We will chew Nyusi's body.
There were signs tensions were rising in Cabo Delgado long before that first attack in 2017. 2 years before, in 2015, the mayor of Mocímboa da Praia was reported to have said that a group called Al-Shabaab was recruiting youth, and this posed a threat to peace in the area. Muslim leaders also warned of unrest.
Some of them, they went to see local authorities to say, look, we are facing many challenges in our local mosques. We have people coming from abroad, especially young people, trying to preach a very radical Islam. There were no very clear action coming from the government in order to fight the phenomenon, in order to fight the group at the very beginning.
We asked the Mozambican government whether more could have been done to stop the insurgency in its tracks, but it declined to comment. The government has now held some recent military successes, like the retaking of Mocímboa da Praia. But peace still seems a long way off for nearly a third of the region's population who have been forced to flee the fighting. Satellite imagery shows the growth of refugee camps, like this one in Metuge, and this one 27 kilometers away in Ntokota. Many may never see their family again.
Não tenho confiança que eles estão em vida ou não sei.
If I see Nuro, he cannot escape, really. He caused the war. We left our things. We left our homes. We left our sheep breeding, and my brother-in-law left his goats. We left our brick house. If you remind us of Nuro, you are an enemy of us.
The sons of Mocímboa da Praia have created a grim and painful legacy. Their parents, their former friends and neighbors will never forget.